Secret to living without fear and anxiety forever. Your mind can heal itself. Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you to take a deep breath, not just into your lungs, but into your soul. For what we are about to explore is not merely a concept, but a transformation. The topic before us, the secret to living without fear and anxiety forever. Your mind can heal itself is not an unreachable dream or spiritual fantasy. It is a divine truth hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to remember who you truly are. Every day, millions wake up already burdened by invisible chains, worries about the future, regrets from the past, and doubts that whisper, "What if it all goes wrong?" This is the silent prison of fear and anxiety. Yet, what if I told you that the key to your freedom has always been within your own mind? That your thoughts, when understood and directed rightly, hold the power to heal, to calm, and to create a life of lasting peace. You see, fear is not a punishment. It is a signal, a gentle knock from your higher self, reminding you that you have strayed from truth. Anxiety is not a curse. It is a teacher showing you where your trust has weakened. The mind that once created fear can also create courage. The same imagination that paints pictures of disaster can also paint visions of peace, joy, and divine assurance. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your greatest healer when you know how to guide it. The secret lies in awareness. When you begin to see your thoughts instead of being swept away by them, a miracle happens. Distance. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. In that realization, power returns to you. Fear loses its authority the moment you stop feeding it attention. Anxiety dissolves when you stop identifying with it. Ladies and gentlemen, life is not meant to be lived in constant worry. You were not created to survive your days in tension, but to live them in freedom. The divine design of your being is peace. A peace so still, so powerful, that even storms cannot disturb it. But to experience this peace, you must stop believing the lies of fear. You must remember that you are supported, guided, and deeply loved by the same power that created the universe. Today, let this be the moment you awaken to that truth. The mind that once enslaved you can now become your instrument of liberation. You have the ability to heal, not by adding anything new, but by remembering what has always been true. You are safe, you are whole, and you are never alone. So as we journey together into this message, open your heart. Let every word sink deep into your awareness. For the secret to living without fear is not found in the world, it is found in you. And once you see that clearly, you will never live another day in anxiety again. Fear is a thought, not a reality, ladies and gentlemen. Let us begin with the profound truth that can set every human being free. Fear is not real. It is only a thought that you have believed in for too long. Fear has no form, no substance, and no true existence in the divine order of life. It is a mental picture projected onto the screen of your mind, and when you stop energizing that picture, it fades away. Everything you fear exists only in imagination, and imagination obeys belief. What you believe, you experience. This is why the first and most powerful step to living without fear or anxiety forever is understanding that fear is nothing more than a pattern of thought you have unconsciously accepted as truth. When you awaken to this awareness, the hold that fear has on you begins to crumble. Think about it. All your fears are tied to the idea of something that might happen. The mind projects a possibility, and the body reacts as if it were real. This is the illusion. The future has not happened yet your mind lives in it as though it already has. Fear is the misuse of imagination. The same power that could create a vision of faith, success, and divine guidance is instead used to create visions of danger, loss, and failure. And because your subconscious mind accepts what you continually dwell upon, you end up living out the very scenarios you once feared. You are not being punished. You are being shown how powerful your thoughts are. Every fearful moment is a reminder that your creative power is being misdirected. To heal fear, you must reclaim your imagination and use it as it was meant to be used, to create peace, not panic. When you understand that fear is only a thought, you begin to see how unnecessary it truly is. No event has the power to hurt you. It is your interpretation of the event that causes your suffering. Fear begins in the moment you believe the thought that says something bad will happen. But pause and look deeply. Is that true right now? In this present moment, you are safe. You are breathing. The world has not ended. Every fearful projection exists in a time that does not yet exist, the future. Fear cannot survive in the now. This is why spiritual teachers and prophets throughout history have reminded us, be still. When you are still, you are present. And when you are present, fear cannot reach you. The now is your sanctuary, the space where divine peace lives untouched. Anxiety is simply fear repeated over and over in the mind until it becomes habitual. The body begins to memorize this fear and calls it anxiety. But understand this, your mind and body are servants to your awareness. When you become aware that fear is not a command, but a suggestion, you regain authority. You are not the thoughts that come and go. You are the consciousness that witnesses them. Thoughts may enter your mind, but they do not define you unless you accept them. The key to ending anxiety is learning to observe your thoughts instead of identifying with them. The moment you say, I see fear, instead of, I am afraid, you have already begun the process of healing. You have separated yourself from the illusion. Fear is not yours to carry. It was never part of your true nature. The divine mind within you, that eternal, peaceful awareness, has never once known fear. Fear belongs to the world of appearances, to the human ego that believes it is alone and vulnerable. But the truth is you are never alone, never unprotected, never without divine intelligence guiding every step. When you truly grasp this, the energy of fear melts into trust. What we call courage is not the absence of fear, but the understanding that fear has no real power. You stop running from shadows once you realize they cannot touch you. Fear exists only as long as you believe in its story. You can test this truth in your daily life. The next time fear arises, whether it is about your future, your health, your relationships, or your success, pause and remind yourself, this is only a thought, not a fact. Speak to your mind with authority, I no longer agree with this idea. I am safe in this moment. All is well. Repeat it until your body begins to calm. You will feel your heart rate slow, your breath deepen, and your peace return. That shift is not imaginary. It is your consciousness reclaiming dominion. The mind obeys the voice of truth when spoken with conviction. Fear cannot survive in a heart filled with faith. Another profound truth to remember is that fear cannot exist in the presence of love. Love and fear are opposites, and they cannot occupy the same space. The more you fill your mind with loving thoughts, thoughts of gratitude, compassion, faith, and divine trust, the less room there is for fear to dwell. Love dissolves fear because love is reality, while fear is illusion. The only reason fear ever feels strong is because you have forgotten how powerful love is. To live without fear is not to suppress it or pretend it doesn't exist. It is to fill your being so completely with the awareness of love that fear finds no place to rest. Understand this, dear listener, your mind is your servant, not your master. When fear appears, it is not to control you, but to be understood. Every fearful thought is asking for your attention so it can be released. You heal fear not by resisting it, but by facing it with light. When you shine awareness upon it, the darkness disappears. It was never real, only unexamined. Anxiety thrives in ignorance, but awareness is its undoing. Begin to notice how fear arises, how it feels in your body, what story it tells, and then gently detach. The more you observe, the less you identify, and the less power it has over you. Imagine your mind as a vast sky. Fearful thoughts are like passing clouds, temporary and powerless unless you mistake them for the sky itself. You are not the cloud, you are the sky, boundless, open, eternal. The clouds may pass, but the sky remains. When you live from this understanding, you no longer fight fear. You allow it to come and go without resistance. The storms may visit, but they cannot stay. You rest in peace knowing they are only passing expressions in the greater field of your awareness. And remember, every time you choose faith over fear, love over anxiety, truth over illusion, your mind rewires itself. Neural pathways shift, the body relaxes, and peace becomes your new normal. This is not wishful thinking, it is divine law. Your inner world creates your outer experience. The moment you change the way you think and perceive, the world must change in response. The outer chaos you see is only a reflection of the inner turbulence within humanity's collective mind. But you are not bound by that. You have the power to rise above it by anchoring yourself in divine truth. Fear is a lie and love is eternal. Ladies and gentlemen, once you truly understand that fear is just a thought, you are no longer its prisoner. You begin to walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that nothing outside of you has power over the peace within you. The storms may come, but they will not shake your foundation. You stop reacting and start responding from wisdom. You live in alignment with divine order, guided by faith, not by fear. This is the first secret to living without fear and anxiety forever, to realize that fear is not an external force, but an internal illusion. It cannot dominate you unless you agree with it. When you no longer believe in the stories it tells, the stories stop playing. You wake up from the nightmare and return to truth. And the truth is this: you are already free, already whole, already safe. Fear was never real. It was only a dream from which you are now awakening. Awareness is the antidote, ladies and gentlemen. The moment you awaken to awareness, fear begins to dissolve. Awareness is not something you need to acquire. It is what you already are beneath the noise of thought. It is the silent watcher that has always been present. observing every experience, every emotion, every thought, without being affected by any of them. Fear and anxiety thrive only in unconsciousness, in the absence of awareness. The mind creates an endless stream of worries, regrets, and projections, and because you believe those thoughts to be you suffer. But when awareness awakens, you begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the light that sees them. This shift in perception changes everything. The power that fear once had over you evaporates because fear cannot survive in the light of consciousness. Awareness is the space between you and your thoughts. It is that sacred stillness where peace naturally abides. Every anxious moment, every fearful reaction is born when you forget this space and identify with the noise of the mind. The mind screams, "What if?" and you obey it as if it were truth. But awareness watches and says, "That's just a thought passing by." The difference between suffering and serenity lies in that simple realization that you can witness your fear without being possessed by it. You can feel anxiety arise, watch it, breathe through it, and let it go. The mind may still produce thoughts of worry, but awareness no longer feeds them. And what you do not feed cannot survive. Think of your mind as a river constantly flowing with thoughts, feelings, and impressions. Most people are swept away by that current, believing they are the river itself. Awareness, however, is the riverbank, still observing, untouched by the flow. When you sit on that bank and simply watch the chaos of the current loses its grip, you realize that thoughts are not commands, they are passing ripples in consciousness. You do not have to react to every wave that rises within you. You simply let them pass, and in that allowing, the water begins to calm on its own. Awareness heals because it reveals truth. Fear is sustained by illusion, and illusion cannot withstand the light of seeing. When you bring awareness to your anxiety, you stop fighting it and start understanding it. You begin to see what triggers it, what thoughts it feeds on, and how it manipulates your imagination. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, what looked terrifying becomes harmless. You see the truth, and in seeing, you are freed. Every fearful emotion loses its strength when you look directly at it without judgment. That simple act of observation is the highest form of self-love. It says, "I am not running from myself anymore." And in that acceptance, healing begins. When awareness becomes your way of living, you stop being reactive. You don't allow the outer world to dictate your inner peace. A challenge may appear, but awareness allows you to see it clearly, respond calmly, and move through it with wisdom. The unaware mind panics, the aware mind perceives. Awareness does not mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you act from clarity instead of fear. You make decisions not from desperation, but from understanding. The more awake you are to the present moment, the less room there is for anxiety to grow. Anxiety only exists in the absence of presence. Awareness, therefore, is the medicine. To cultivate awareness, you must practice stillness. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of yourself. When you sit quietly and watch your thoughts without interference, you begin to notice patterns. How the mind constantly drifts to the past or the future, never at peace in the now. Awareness gently brings you back. You begin to notice your breath, the sensations in your body, the life moving within you. In this presence, the storms of the mind subside. What once felt overwhelming now becomes a passing wave. Awareness teaches you that everything is temporary. Every thought, every emotion, every circumstance. And when you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, fear loses its foundation. Many people think healing comes from control, from trying to change their thoughts or suppress emotions. But awareness shows that healing comes from surrender, not control. You cannot fight fear and win, because fighting strengthens what you resist. Instead, awareness invites you to watch without resistance, to simply see what is arising. The moment you accept what you feel, you disarm it. Fear feeds on your resistance. Awareness starves it with acceptance. You don't heal the mind by force, you heal it through gentle seeing. The more you watch, the more you realize that you are untouched by what you watch. You are the sky, and thoughts are clouds. They can never stain you. Ladies and gentlemen, awareness is your divine inheritance. It is not something you must learn. It is what you have forgotten. The same awareness that watches your thoughts is the same consciousness that animates all of life. It is the presence of God within you, calm, eternal, unshaken. The more you live from that awareness, the more fear fades into nothingness. Life becomes lighter, simpler, and more peaceful. You no longer seek safety from the world because you realize safety was always within you. You begin to live from your center, from truth, from the unmovable awareness that says, "I am," and here lies the secret. Awareness doesn't remove fear, it transforms it. It doesn't erase challenges, it gives you eyes to see them rightly. The moment you become aware, fear turns into faith, pain turns into wisdom. and anxiety becomes an opportunity for awakening. Every fearful thought becomes a chance to remember your power. Awareness reveals that you were never broken, never lost, never separate, only unaware of your own light. And once that light is seen, no darkness can remain. So, the antidote to fear is not escape, not denial, not endless seeking. It is awareness, to simply see what is, to rest as the one who observes, untouched and eternal. In that still space of knowing, peace rises naturally, like the dawn after a long night. Awareness is your sunrise. It ends the long darkness of fear and reveals the truth. You were always free. The mind heals itself through stillness, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest secret to peace and freedom from fear lies not in constant struggle or endless searching, but in the sacred art of stillness. Your mind is not your enemy. It is a divine instrument created to serve your higher being. But just as water becomes muddy when stirred, the mind becomes chaotic when constantly agitated by fear, worry, and restless thought. In stillness, the mud settles and clarity returns. The same is true for you. When you allow your mind to rest, to be silent, to stop chasing after what might happen or regretting what has already passed, it begins to heal itself naturally. You do not have to force healing. You simply have to stop disturbing the mind's divine order. Peace is not something to be achieved. It is something revealed when the noise of fear fades away. The human mind is a miraculous creation. It possesses infinite intelligence, capable of restoring balance and harmony when given the chance. However, most people never allow the mind to be still long enough for this healing to occur. They live in constant motion, thinking, planning, worrying, analyzing. Their inner world is loud, and so their outer world reflects that noise. Yet the truth is that healing does not happen through overthinking. Healing happens in silence, in surrender, in that sacred moment when you stop trying to control everything and let the divine intelligence within you take over. The moment you release the need to figure everything out, your mind begins to breathe again. It reorganizes itself in the quiet, just as the body heals in rest. Think of your mind like an ocean. On the surface, there may be waves, storms of thought, gusts of emotion, the turbulence of fear. But deep below, the water is still, vast and untouched. That depth represents your true nature, pure consciousness. The storms are temporary. They only seem powerful when you focus on them. When you drop your awareness into the stillness beneath the waves, you discover that peace was never lost. It was only hidden by movement. Stillness is not the absence of thought. It is the awareness beneath thought. It is the quiet foundation that never moves, no matter how wild the surface becomes. When you rest there, fear loses all meaning, because fear can only exist in the shallow waters of a restless mind. The mind heals itself in stillness because stillness reconnects you to the source, the divine intelligence that sustains all life. Every answer you seek, every solution you desire, already exists in that quiet place within you. The problem is not that you don't have guidance, it's that you can't hear it over the noise. When you slow down, when you stop reacting, when you simply breathe and allow silence to envelop you, you begin to feel a soft peace rising from within. That peace is your natural state, the original state before the world taught you to be afraid. It is in this peace that the mind resets, the nervous system calms, and divine clarity emerges. Stillness is not passivity, it is power in its highest form. It is the point where your human effort ends and divine assistance begins. Most people exhaust themselves trying to fix their minds, control their emotions, and resist their fears. But the more you fight, the louder the mind becomes. The moment you let go, truly let go, the healing begins. The mind knows how to balance itself. The body knows how to restore harmony. The soul knows its path. All of this becomes visible when you become still enough to hear the whisper of God within you. You realize that peace is not created, it is remembered. Fear disappears not because it is conquered, but because it is seen for what it is, an illusion born of a noisy mind. Try this simple truth: when fear arises, do nothing. Sit quietly, feel it, breathe. Do not label it as bad or wrong. Just observe it as energy moving through a body. You will notice that it rises, peaks, and eventually passes. Every wave of emotion does this. It only lasts because you resist it. Stillness is the space that allows fear to complete its cycle and dissolve. The moment you stop interfering, your mind's natural intelligence takes over and balance is restored. You will feel a peace that is not forced but effortless, a calm that does not depend on circumstances. This is the divine peace that surpasses all understanding, the peace that can only be found when the mind rests in stillness. Ladies and gentlemen, stillness is your sanctuary. It is where your healing begins and ends. It does not require hours of meditation or spiritual rituals. It requires awareness and surrender. You can be still even in the middle of chaos, still inside even if the world is loud outside. When you are anchored in inner silence, fear cannot touch you. The storms may rage around you, but you remain unshaken, for your peace no longer depends on what happens. It flows from what is. The mind, once trained to rest in stillness, becomes your greatest ally. It becomes a clear mirror reflecting divine truth instead of a fog that distorts it. In stillness, you rediscover who you truly are, not the anxious self, not the fearful identity, but the eternal awareness behind it all. You realize that peace was never something to chase, it was something you had all along. When you live from this stillness, you move through life with grace, respond to challenges with wisdom, and create from love instead of fear. The mind heals itself through stillness because in stillness, it remembers its divine nature. It stops identifying with the noise of the world and rests in the eternal truth of the Spirit. That truth whispers, you are safe, you are whole, you are free. And when you truly hear that voice, fear and anxiety vanish like mist before the morning sun. Reprogram your inner conversation, ladies and gentlemen. One of the greatest truths about the human experience is this: your life is a reflection of the conversations you hold within yourself. Every outcome, every emotion, every perception of reality begins with what you repeatedly tell yourself in the silence of your mind. The most powerful force shaping your destiny is not what others say to you, but what you say to yourself when no one else is listening. Fear and anxiety thrive in negative self-talk, in the quiet whispers of doubt that go unchallenged. But the moment you begin to speak differently within, your outer world begins to transform. This is the secret to change your life. You must first reprogram your inner conversation. What you believe and affirm inside becomes the pattern your reality mirrors back to you. The mind, like fertile soil, grows whatever seed you plant in it. If you continually plant words of fear, I can't, I'm not enough, something bad will happen, your mind will cultivate anxiety and limitation. But if you plant words of faith, I am safe, I am guided, everything always works out for me, the same mind will grow peace, confidence, and divine order. You do not need to fight your fears, you need to replace the language that sustains them. Every time you speak words of love, peace, and assurance to yourself, you are rewriting the script of your subconscious mind. You are training your inner voice to serve your spirit instead of your fear. This is how transformation begins, not through struggle, but through the deliberate practice of new self-talk. Understand this truth deeply. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is true and what is imagined. It simply accepts whatever you consistently affirm as real. This means that every thought you repeat becomes a command. The words you speak internally create emotional vibrations, and those emotions shape the reality you live in. Fear is learned through repetition, so is faith. Anxiety is reinforced through constant inner dialogue of worry. Peace is strengthened through inner dialogue of trust. When you change what you continually say to yourself, you change the emotional atmosphere of your being. The outer world has no choice but to align with that inner shift. For many people, the inner voice is a critic, constantly pointing out what's wrong, what's missing, what could go wrong next. This is the voice that keeps you in bondage. But it is not your true voice. It is a conditioned echo of past fears, experiences, and influences. You have the power to silence that voice and replace it with one that speaks truth. Begin to speak to yourself as you would to someone you love deeply. When you feel anxious, say to yourself softly, I understand you're afraid, but we are safe now. We are guided. We are not alone. When doubt arises, respond with faith. I may not see the full picture, but everything is unfolding for my good. These words are not empty affirmations. They are acts of reprogramming. Each loving statement rewires neural pathways, training your brain to respond to life with trust instead of fear. Reprogramming your inner conversation is not about denying reality. It's about aligning with higher truth. Fear speaks the language of separation. It says you are powerless, unsupported, and alone. Faith speaks the language of unity. It reminds you that you are divinely guided, infinitely loved, and eternally safe. When you consciously choose the latter, you invite divine energy to move through your life. You begin to experience coincidences that guide you, people who uplift you, and opportunities that reflect your inner confidence. This is not magic, it is divine law in action. The universe mirrors the vibration you hold within. Every time you catch yourself speaking words of fear, pause and choose differently. Replace, what if it doesn't work out, with what if it works out better than I imagined. Replace, I'm scared, with I am learning to trust. Replace, I can't handle this, with I am stronger than I know. These small shifts create monumental changes because the subconscious listens to repetition, not effort. The more you practice positive, faith-filled self-talk, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your inner world transforms from a battlefield into a sanctuary. You begin to feel peace without trying, confidence without pretending, and strength without force. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the divine truth. You are always speaking your future into existence. Every thought is a seed, every word is a prophecy. If you want to live without fear and anxiety, you must become the guardian of your inner dialogue. Listen carefully to the stories you tell yourself each day. Are they filled with fear or faith, with limitation or possibility, with despair or hope? The stories you repeat become the reality you experience. Speak to yourself as a creator, not a victim. Declare peace even when the world looks chaotic. Speak abundance even when it seems scarce. Affirm health even when you feel weak. Your words carry creative power. They are the blueprint of your destiny. Reprogramming your inner conversation also requires gentleness. Do not condemn yourself for negative thoughts. Simply observe them and replace them. Be patient with your mind. It has been trained in fear for years, perhaps decades. You are teaching it a new language, the language of divine truth. As you continue to speak love to yourself, something miraculous happens. The fearful voice begins to fade. It loses authority because you no longer give it energy. A new voice rises, calm, kind, wise. It guides you from within, reminding you of your worth, your power, and your connection to the divine. When you master your inner conversation, you master your reality. Fear no longer rules you because your words create faith. Anxiety dissolves because your thoughts radiate peace. Every time you affirm, I am safe, I am guided, I am loved, you activate the healing intelligence of your mind. The subconscious accepts that truth and reorganizes your reality to match it. You stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and become the conscious creator of your life. So reprogram your inner conversation and watch how your world changes. Speak as one who already possesses the peace you desire. Talk to yourself as one who already lives in divine protection and abundance, because you do. And when your words reflect that truth, your life will too. Your mind heals when your words agree with love, and when love becomes your inner language. Fear and anxiety will never again find a place to live within you. Trust the divine order of life, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest cure for fear and anxiety lies in one sacred truth. Everything in life unfolds according to divine order. Nothing in your path is random, accidental, or meaningless. Every event, delay, and challenge has been woven into the grand tapestry of your soul's awakening. The reason many live in fear is that they have forgotten this divine intelligence that governs all things. They look at life through the limited eyes of the ego, which only sees fragments, not the whole. The ego fears what it cannot control, but the spirit knows that even chaos has a purpose. The moment you begin to trust that there is a higher order guiding your steps, even when you do not understand it, peace begins to return to your heart. You stop fighting what is and start flowing with what is meant to be. This surrender is not weakness, it is the highest form of wisdom. When you trust the divine order of life, you understand that nothing is ever out of place. The people who come into your life, the ones who leave, the opportunities that open, and the ones that close, all are pieces of a sacred plan designed for your growth and awakening. Fear arises when you forget this truth and begin to think life is happening to you instead of for you. Anxiety grows when you try to control outcomes that were never meant to be controlled. But when you rest in trust, your energy shifts from resistance to alignment. You begin to see divine patterns where once you saw problems. You recognize that what you once called a setback was really a setup for your elevation. You understand that the delay was not denial, it was divine timing preparing the right moment for your blessing to manifest. Every time you doubt life's timing, you create resistance. The mind begins to panic because it believes it must make everything happen by force. But divine order operates through flow, not force. Life does not need your worry to function correctly. It only needs your faith to unfold perfectly. The river of creation is already flowing toward your highest good. All you need to do is stop swimming against it. Fear says, what if I fall? Faith says, what if I am carried? The moment you surrender the illusion of control and trust the current of divine intelligence, the anxiety that once ruled you begins to disappear. You begin to rest in a deeper truth, that you are not separate from life, you are one with it. Life is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally working tirelessly behind the scenes to lead you toward wholeness. This is why faith and fear cannot live in the same heart. Faith whispers, I am guided, while fear shouts, I am lost. But you were never lost, only unaware of the guidance that has always been with you. Trusting divine order means believing that even when your path feels uncertain, the unseen hand of God is directing every step. You may not understand why a door closed, why a relationship ended, or why a dream seemed delayed, But later, when the pieces come together, you will see that nothing was ever missing. Divine order never fails, only human impatience makes it seem that way. Every unanswered prayer was an answered protection. Every redirection was a blessing disguised as disappointment. When you begin to see through the eyes of trust, fear loses its reason to exist. Ladies and gentlemen, the divine order of life is not something outside of you. It operates through you. It lies within your intuition, that quiet inner knowing that gently whispers, "This way." The problem is that most people cannot hear that whisper over the noise of their anxious thoughts. Anxiety is the static that blocks divine guidance. But when you slow down, breathe, and become still, you begin to sense the rhythm of life moving through you. You start to feel when something is right, not because of logic, but because of resonance. The universe speaks in the language of peace. When something is aligned with divine order, it feels peaceful. When it is not, it feels heavy, forced, or chaotic. Trust those signals. They are divine communication, reminding you that guidance is always present if you are willing to listen. To trust divine order is to release the need to know every detail. It is to live with the humility that says, I don't have to understand everything to trust that everything is working out. That kind of surrender frees you from the prison of constant mental over-analysis. You stop asking why and start saying thank you. You stop begging for answers and start walking in faith. Trusting divine order does not mean everything will always look perfect. It means you will know that even the imperfections are part of a perfect plan. The storms you go through are not punishments, they are preparations. The confusion you feel is not evidence of failure, it is a sacred invitation to expand your faith. Every challenge is a teacher in disguise, molding your character, strengthening your spirit, and guiding you toward your higher destiny. When you resist divine order, you invite suffering. When you flow with it, you experience peace. Fear is the friction that comes from trying to swim upstream against life's current. But when you surrender, you discover that the current was never against you. It was carrying you home. Trust is the bridge that carries you from anxiety to peace. It is the knowing that whatever happens, you are safe within the divine design. Even the moments that seem painful have meaning when viewed from the higher perspective of your soul. Perhaps the delay protected you from something unseen. Perhaps the loss cleared space for something greater. Perhaps the closed door redirected you to your true purpose. The divine never withholds, it only redirects. Trusting divine order also means trusting divine timing. The ego wants everything now. It panics when things take longer than expected. But spiritual maturity understands that time is part of the unfolding. The seed cannot rush the tree it will become. Likewise, your manifestations cannot bloom before their appointed season. Trust that life knows the perfect moment for your breakthrough. You are not late, you are being aligned. The time you spend waiting is not wasted. It is preparation. The caterpillar may think its world has ended, but the divine knows it is being transformed. Your waiting season is sacred. It is where faith deepens, where fear loses its grip, and where your spirit learns to rest in divine peace. Ladies and gentlemen, when you truly trust the divine order of life, fear can no longer dominate you. You begin to see every situation through the lens of purpose. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin saying, what is this teaching me? You stop cursing the storm and start blessing the lesson. Fear lives in resistance, peace lives in acceptance. Anxiety comes from the need to control. Serenity comes from the willingness to trust. The moment you surrender to divine order, you align yourself with the rhythm of creation, and that rhythm is always moving in your favor. So breathe deeply and remember life is not against you, it is for you. Everything that happens, every detour, every delay, every heartbreak is divinely ordered to awaken you to your highest self. The mind that fears cannot see the plan, but the heart that trusts feels it. Trust is the key that opens the gate to peace. When you rest in the knowing that life is unfolding perfectly, fear loses its power. The anxiety that once ruled your days dissolves into calm assurance. You begin to walk through life with faith, not because you know what comes next, but because you know who is guiding you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the final secret to living without fear and anxiety forever, to trust the divine order of life. Everything is as it should be. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Nothing has gone wrong. It is all part of the unfolding perfection of your journey. When you live from that knowing, peace becomes your natural state. You realize that the universe is not chaotic, it is compassionate. The divine is not distant, it is within you. And in that deep trust, fear finds no home, because you finally understand you were never meant to worry, only to trust.